Alright, this time, something else I think that's kind of overlooked in a lot of the instructional videos. A lot of people, they show you some of your first scales and your chords and your techniques and stuff, but they don't really show you how to practice, which can be frustrating. Right now, I'm trying to still figure out a way that I can cram as much practice into a small amount of time as I can. And if I do it right, 3 hours. I can't come up with anything less than 3 hours. And that's at like 5-minute intervals. Each specific thing I do it for 5 minutes. And that's another thing. Rusty Cooley, John Petrucci, a lot of them, they have, if you go and find pictures of their setup and their practice rig, they have egg timers in their little rack system. I saw John Petrucci's once, and it has like his little practice amp, and it has some of his effects, and there's an egg timer and a metronome. And it really kind of does help, because it doesn't seem, you'll practice for about an hour or two and not realize that's been that long. So, but it also keeps it from getting boring, because practicing can get boring. It really can, depending on what you're doing, or if you're being forced to practice or something like that. 5-minute intervals. Usually everybody can has a 5-minute attention span. If not, try it less. I don't know what to tell you. But anything you would usually practice, you don't have to change your routine, but just try it in 5-minute chunks. Do alternate picking for 5 minutes, and legato or sweeping, or try running through each scale or all your scales in 5 minutes. Anything you want to practice. For one, it just kind of makes things go faster, and if you don't feel like you're warmed up for that specific thing, set it for another 5 minutes until you feel like you have it where you want it to be. You feel like you're warmed up for that specific thing, then go to the next one. If it only takes you 5 minutes, that's great. If not, if it takes you 20 minutes, just keep setting it in 5s. And it'll go off before you realize it. You're like, oh wow, I didn't feel like I practiced at all. And it'll be 5 minutes to go by. So that's something. Now also something else that I've seen two different, totally opposite types of practicing, but they both are still effective. And for most of the topics I see people arguing about, I don't think any of them are wrong, but also neither of them are totally 100% right either. And also it depends on you specifically, what you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of factors. There always is, and that's usually where all the arguments come from. But just, the two big ones I see is metronome or no metronome. John Petrucci, Michelangelo Beiber, Jeff Loomis. I'm sure I missed some. I know I did, but some of the ones that say metronome everything. Now, none of those are punk players at all. Some people, Paul Gilbert, Rusty Cooley, I'm sure they have at one point, but for the most part, they don't use metronomes. I do say it's a good idea when you're first starting out, because it teaches you how to count also, and it's easy to chart progress. I've said that before. It's easier to see, this is where I started, this is my goal, and you can actually see your steps as you're going. Mark it each day, or set it. If you want to do one lick, or one technique or something, whatever it is, you can tap your foot. A lot of them have a tap tempo. If not, you just have to mess with it a little bit and find out. But you can guess you're probably going to be, if you're starting to lick at 16ths here, and that's comfortable to you, bump it up 5, 10 beats per minute, or however your metronome set. Just bump it up just a little bit. Practice it at that. And just go up a little bit. Now, if you start at 60, just to say it, If you start at 60 beats per minute and you want to end up to be able to do it at 200, that's your goal. Now, if you say, I want to get there in a month, whatever goal you want to set. If you have a show coming up, or, if you're going into the studio, or you have a song you want to write, and there's that one part you want, but you just can't quite get it right, bust out the metronome. Now, if you want to really, really get into it, I'm not guaranteeing it'll be successful, but you can say, if you're starting at 100 and you want to end up at 200, and you have 2 weeks to do it, if you really want to do it, you can bust out the calculator and say, okay, there's 100 beats per minute in between that. I have 30 days, or not 30, that's a month, like 10 days to do it. Make sure you can do, you can advance to where it's comfortable, 10 beats per minute more each day. And then you'll be at your 100 by the end of it. You'll be from 100 to 2. It's just easier to see it. And right now, what tempo it starts to get hard for you every day, and watch how that goes up. And it's it's good. It helps you see your progress, and also teaches you to count. It helps you hear. It's easier for you to hear exactly where you're starting to play sloppy, like where you just can't quite get it. Back it off a little bit. No big deal. It's just easier for you to see where you're at. The other method is the Paul Gilbert approach. I really think both of them, the metronome and this way, are pretty effective, but Paul Gilbert's, it's not necessarily about this just gaining speed, but more about, I guess more of a rhythmic thing. It's probably, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. I think I found it in the Guitar World column, a video, where he'll take and just, and that's his beat. And he'll pick however many beats or he wants to play or anything, and whatever scale he uses, since, there's not really any pitch to this. All you're doing is picking a tempo, or whatever you pick, and he'll just try to fit notes in between it to where he's still staying in the beat. He's still keeping the time, but he's also starts by just like fitting 1 or 2 notes in, and then he'll expand it, and then it just kind of helps you at the same time, instead of just being able to play it at a certain tempo and make sure they're all, instead of spending all your time on making sure it's super clean, which, at some point it's important, but also but at the same time, if you can't fit that into a song, then you kind of wasted your time on it. I'm not saying wasting your time on technique is, it's not a waste of time at all. But you also need to learn how to apply everything you're doing. But look up that video. It's really good. Then let me see here. Another thing would have to be taking more of a classical approach. Not necessarily classical music, but if you've ever heard of an etude, if you ever took lessons, or usually see it a lot in piano or violin or any of the classical music, it's called an etude, the piece of music is. And some of them are very helpful, but the purpose of an etude is a practice piece. That etude was written to focus on practicing, this scale or this technique or this type of harmony. Chris Broderick's a big one for this. Any of his columns he's had for Guitar World have been basically licks that he's written for the sole purpose of practicing a certain thing. So it not only does it help you practice it, but it also teaches you how to apply it at the same time. And it also kind of helps you keep it sounding musical, so it's not just like it's not just like running scales up and down. But also, no, not that you should know your scales, but it helps you. And also, it develops your ear. You play whatever you like. But if you're writing one just for sweep picking, take start out with try to fit like one of every different type of thing you can think of in it, but make it all smooth and musical. So take a 3-string shape. Just the point that you're mixing, some of the just the point of making a practice piece all out of like Phrygian. Like F sharp Phrygian, or whatever scale you pick out. So it still sounds like you could still put it in a song, but the purpose of it is so that you can visualize the F sharp Phrygian scale, or so you can practice sweep picking, or anything like that. And it keeps it from getting boring. It's kind of like you're writing something every day, and you're practicing your technique, and you're visualizing the fretboard. You can use it to a metronome or without it. You can, it just really helps you become an overall player. Helps you think a little more, and I really think it's valuable. But those are some of the main points I've seen looking for the ultimate practice routine. So again, it's 5-minute intervals. Try with a metronome and without it, and try writing your own practice pieces. Definitely still get every lesson you can find, books, videos, audio clips, even if it's the same things, because people explain things in different ways. That this person said it and it didn't make sense, but this person could, and it just all clicks. That happens constantly. So, but also find a way to take each of those lessons and kind of make them your own. It gives you licks to put in your bag of tricks. And it also helps you hear what's actually happening, not just this is an arpeggio, but to hear how they fit together, and it shows you how to do it for when you're writing songs your own. So, try it with all techniques, all your scales, everything you can think of. So, hope you got something from this, and if you have any other ideas, comments, thoughts, pass them on. I'm always looking for new ideas and tricks and everything, so if you want something else, please share. Thanks.